A black dress, bare shoulders, an entrance meant to be a triumph, but instead of admiration, there was awkward silence. Camilla wore that very outfit that had turned Diana into an icon a year earlier. Just one detail. She was the very reason Diana wore that dress in the first place. Fashion revenge only works when truth stands behind it. But what if there's no truth? What happens when a woman tries to claim someone else's pain as an accessory? The photographs from that evening speak for themselves. But the story turned out far more cruel than just a poor wardrobe choice. It all began with one woman stepping out of a car on a summer evening in London. 1994, the Serpentine Gallery. Camera flashes. The crowd freezes. Princess Diana steps onto the red carpet in a black fitted dress by Christina Stambolian. Bare shoulders, perfect silhouette, a gaze full of dignity. In this moment, she's not simply attending a social event, she's making a statement. Silently, without words. Through image alone. The atmosphere that night was tense beyond measure. Journalists literally hunted her every movement. Photographers stumbled over themselves trying to capture the best angle. The public couldn't look away. The black dress seemed like a challenge to everything happening in her life over recent months. But to understand the full power of this moment, you need to know what was happening that very evening behind the scenes. While Diana stepped out of the car in that dress, millions of Britons sat glued to their television sets. The main channel was broadcasting an interview with Prince Charles and journalist Jonathan Dimbleby, a documentary about the heir to the throne's life. But everyone was interested in only one question, and it came. The question about infidelity, about another woman. Charles didn't deny it. Before the entire nation, he admitted he'd been unfaithful in his marriage, making excuses, explaining, trying to present the situation favorably. Saying the marriage was already hopeless by that point. Imagine the contrast. While he sits in a chair before the camera speaking these words, his wife appears in public wearing an image that screams without a single sound. While the nation listens to his excuses, Diana sends her message to the world. She doesn't cry, doesn't hide, doesn't sit at home in depression. And it's in this moment the black dress becomes not just an outfit, but a true weapon. Let's break down why this look worked so powerfully. Black. In the royal family, it was traditionally worn as a sign of mourning. But here it meant something entirely different. Strength, independence, the end of one era and the beginning of another. The fitted silhouette emphasized every line of her figure. This was a bold statement for a woman who'd been hidden for years in conservative tweed suits and pastel dresses with ruffles. Bare shoulders added daring. The asymmetrical cut spoke of readiness to break the rules. The length just above the knee was the perfect balance between elegance and provocation. Not too revealing for a royal appearance, but bold enough to show the old boundaries no longer apply. Every detail worked toward the overall message. This was a woman who'd experienced pain but wasn't broken, who'd faced betrayal but remained standing, who'd decided to live not by others' rules, but by her own. But that's not all. The most interesting part is that Diana originally hadn't planned to wear this dress. It had been hanging in her closet for several years. She considered it too daring, but when she learned the date of Charles's interview airing, everything changed. She pulled out the dress, tried it on, and understood. This is exactly what's needed. And then something interesting happened. The world admired her courage. Newspapers wrote about the triumph of style over circumstances. Fashion critics called it the perfect response without words. The look entered history as a symbol of female strength and dignity. But there was one woman who watched this especially closely. 1995. London. The Ritz-Carlton Hotel. a society appearance. Camilla Parker Bowles steps out of the car accompanied by that very Prince Charles, the same woman for whom he destroyed his marriage, the one whose name became the cause of scandal. And here she appears in public, wearing a look that makes everyone who remembers that legendary Diana entrance flinch. A black dress, bare shoulders, a velvet bodice with a neckline. Polka dot fabric adds a certain playfulness, but the main concept is instantly recognizable. Black stockings, a massive pearl necklace, length just above the knee. Even the hairstyle is arranged similarly. Coincidence? Unlikely. The details are too specific, the references too obvious. This was a conscious choice, an attempt to make a statement through fashion, to show she too could be bold, elegant, worthy of attention. The next chapter of this story proved unexpected. Charles beside her looked calm, even pleased. He smiled at photographers, held Camilla's arm, showed the world. Here she is, my chosen one, and I'm not going to hide her. And here comes the most important part. The details were eerily similar. The silhouette repeated the general concept of that very Diana dress. Color, cut, accessories, everything worked to create a parallel. But something was completely wrong. Now, the truth about why this look failed. Diana's dress was an answer to pain, a manifesto of a woman who decided to rise after a blow, a symbol of transformation from victim of circumstances to mistress of her own fate. Behind it stood a story, context, an emotional charge that everyone who saw those photographs could read. Camilla's look was an attempt to appropriate someone else's narrative. She tried to wear not just a similar dress, but someone else's role. The role of a strong, independent woman making a bold statement. But in her case, there was nothing to state. She wasn't a victim of betrayal. On the contrary, she was the one for whom someone was betrayed. She wasn't rising from the ashes of a destroyed marriage. She was building a relationship on the wreckage of someone else's happiness. The context worked against her. Look at the photographs from that appearance. Camilla seems to be trying to inhabit an image that doesn't belong to her. Her posture slightly stiff, smile somewhat forced, gaze lacking that confidence with which Diana looked at cameras a year earlier. The real turning point came when fashion critics began comparing the two looks directly. And the conclusions were merciless. The massive pearl necklace on Camilla looked heavy-handed. Diana's jewelry was minimalist, so as not to distract from the main thing, from her face, her gaze, her message. Camilla seemed to be trying to compensate for something with the quantity of details. The velvet bodice and polka dot fabric added a certain old-fashioned quality to the look. Diana in her dress looked modern and daring. Camilla looked like a woman trying to keep up with fashion but stuck somewhere between eras. And here we approach the main point. Ease. That very elusive ease with which true style icons wear the most daring outfits. Diana moved in her black dress as if she'd been born in it. Every step was filled with grace and confidence. Camilla looked as if the dress wore her, not she the dress. No internal freedom. No sense that the woman is absolutely comfortable in her look and in her skin. The photographs captured this contrast harshly and mercilessly. Two black dresses. Two appearances a year apart, but the chasm between them was enormous. Now let's look at what the professionals said about this. The British press didn't wait long with evaluations. Fashion columnists from leading publications literally dissected Camilla's look piece by piece. One of the most influential critics wrote a phrase that became a verdict. A revenge dress isn't about the cut. It's about the internal manifesto of a woman who's decided to live for herself. Others picked up this thought. Articles multiplied. All came down to one thing. You can copy the cut, color, length, but you cannot copy the meaning. Documents from that time show that public reaction was even harsher than critics' opinions. Newspaper readers wrote letters to editors, discussed on the streets, compared photographs. "She's trying to be Diana, but it's only a pale copy," wrote one reader to the Times. "How can you wear a similar dress when you're the reason Diana wore that look in the first place?" another protested. The most interesting thing about the fashion industry's reaction was that they criticized not so much the dress itself as the intention. The outfit itself was quite elegant, well-tailored, appropriate for a society appearance, but the context destroyed everything. The key moment came several weeks after that appearance, when one designer gave an interview explaining why Camilla's attempt didn't work. "Fashion isn't just fabric and silhouette," he said. "It's the story you tell." Diana told a story of rebirth. Camilla tried to retell someone else's story in her own voice. It doesn't work. It never works. A decade later, the situation hadn't changed. Diana's dress remained in memory as one of the most powerful fashion moments of the 20th century. Camilla's appearance is mentioned only as a curious attempt to repeat someone else's success. What really happened that evening in 1995? Camilla wanted to show she too could be bold, elegant, worthy of standing beside the prince. But she chose the wrong path. Instead of creating her own unique look, she tried to appropriate someone else's. And fashion didn't forgive this. The most important part was still ahead. Because the story of Diana's dress didn't end there. Decades passed. 1994 was left far behind. But Diana's image in the black dress continues to live its own life. Bella Hadid stepped onto the red carpet in a black dress with an asymmetrical neckline and bare shoulders. Journalists immediately drew parallels with the revenge dress. But Bella wasn't copying. She was taking inspiration. Her look was modern, fresh, her own. Rihanna appeared at an awards ceremony in a black fitted outfit with a daring neckline. The reference to Diana was readable, but the singer added her own daring, her own character, her own story. Kim Kardashian wore a similar dress to a charity evening. Bare shoulders, black color, elegant silhouette. Diana was remembered again. But again, it wasn't copying, but interpretation. What's the difference between these looks and what Camilla did? That modern stars don't try to steal someone else's story. They create their own, using iconic elements of the past as a starting point, not as a final destination. Fashion critics' writings from recent years show an interesting trend. Diana's dress has become a kind of archetype in fashion, a symbol of female strength through elegance. But everyone who turns to this symbol must fill it with their own meaning. Bella Hadid made a statement about a young woman's right to be bold, and not apologize for it. Rihanna spoke about freedom from others' expectations. Kim Kardashian demonstrated confidence in herself after public scandals. Each had her own story, her own context, her own truth. Camilla didn't have this, and that's exactly why her attempt remained in history as a warning, not as an inspiring example. The lesson this story taught proved simple and cruel at the same time. In fashion, as in life, you cannot appropriate someone else's narrative. You cannot wear someone else's pain as an accessory. You cannot make someone else's story your own by simply copying external details. The revenge dress worked because behind it stood a real woman with a real story. A woman who went through betrayal and emerged stronger, who transformed pain into dignity, who answered public humiliation with public triumph. Camilla's attempt failed because she tried to play someone else's role, wear someone else's mask, tell someone else's story in her own voice. Fashion forgives much. It forgives experiments. It forgives mistakes. It even forgives outright failures if sincerity and courage to be yourself stand behind them. But it doesn't forgive one thing: absence of one's own voice. Diana spoke in her own voice that night in 1994, loudly, clearly, without regard for conventions, and the world heard. Camilla tried to speak in someone else's voice a year later, and no one heard her, because an echo cannot be louder than the original sound. A copy cannot outshine the original. Imitation cannot surpass sincerity. This is the main difference between a style icon and someone who tries to play one. Between a woman creating history and one trying to write herself into it. Between a true fashion statement and its pale imitation. Diana's dress became legendary not because it was perfectly tailored, but because it was perfectly chosen for that moment, that situation, that woman. It was part of her story, a chapter in her book, a moment of her transformation. Camilla's dress remained just a dress. Beautiful, elegant, expensive, but empty. Without story, without meaning, without that internal fire that turns an outfit into a manifesto. And ultimately, this is what separated the two appearances, two looks, two women. One created an icon, the other tried to copy it. One entered history, the other remained a footnote in someone else's history. Fashion remembers those who dare to be themselves and forgets those who try to be someone else. That's the whole truth about this awkward appearance. Camilla tried to speak the language of fashion but forgot the main thing. Every look must have its own story. Diana created a symbol. Camilla tried to copy it. And fashion proved merciless to imitation. Yet all she needed was simply to be herself, right? If you enjoyed this story about how one outfit can change everything, leave a like. Subscribe to learn more about how royals used fashion as a weapon. And definitely turn on notifications. There are many more incredible stories ahead about dresses that shook the world. Thank you for staying with me until the end. See you very soon.